The Busch Grand National Tour fired it up under the lights in Virginia. And the guy who gives us the big one put on one of the richest late model races of the year. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Allen, sitting in for Pat Patterson. We'll have those stories and a whole lot more coming up later on. But first, let's take a look at the Winston Cup stop in Richmond. Of course, Dale Earnhardt entered the event with a big lead in the points. But the guy trailing him was Rusty Wallace, who has more than his share of wins at the track and always seems to run well there. Could Wallace make up some ground on the leader? Here's the answer in this week's Western Auto Winston Cup report.
The race was delayed because of rain, but after an hour and a half, the track was ready and the green flag flew. But immediately, the yellow was out because of a spin by Kenny Wallace. Jeremy Mayfield had problems early in the Fingerhut Ford, and that allowed everyone to stop for service. Rusty Wallace had the advantage off pit road. But at the end of the first 100 laps, Terry Labonte was out front while Wallace battled Dale Earnhardt for the runner-up spot. Jimmy Spencer lost his motor, and before he could get it to the garage, it caught fire. That caused the fourth caution on lap 163. After pit stops, Wallace had his machine back out front. Passing the halfway point, and the battle for the top spot was still between Wallace and Labonte. Give it to Labonte, who led 127 of the first 200 circuits. Hud Strickland started the Miller Genuine Draft 400 in the second spot, but on lap 252, he was the reason for the fifth yellow. Talk about a close call. That's Kenny Wallace in the 28, and when he lost a tire, Morgan Shepherd and Brett Bodine had to split the difference. The battle off pit road was once again won by the Miller Genuine Draft crew when they put Rusty back out front during green flag pit stops around lap 350. However, 20 laps later and Labonte was around Wallace, and that was it for the Battle of Richmond as Terry Labonte took the checkers and his 12th career win. Second went to Labonte's teammate Jeff Gordon, while Earnhardt, Wallace, and Ricky Rudd completed the top five. And congratulations to this week's UAW GM Teamwork of Excellence Award winner, Gordon Gibbs of Steve Grissom's Diamond Ridge team. I'm Jason Young reporting for On Pit Road.
Still to come on Pit Road, we'll have more stock car action, plus we'll catch you up to date on the open wheel ranks. Stick around.
On Pit Road is brought to you by Restore Automotive Products, manufacturers of innovative automotive products. By Western Auto, the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR.
NASCAR Busch Grand National Series. While Dale Earnhardt is apparently cruising toward another championship, the points chase in the Grand National ranks is a bit closer. Here's the story of the 250-lap show from Richmond in our Restore Busch Grand National report.
Jason Keller had another pole, but it didn't do much good. By lap 81, the Budget Gourmet machine was off the pace and on pit road. In the early going, there was a lot of contact, including caution number 1 when Tracy Leslie, Rodney Coombs, and a couple of others got together. Stevie Reeves was real lucky when he became a sitting target in turn 4. No harm, no foul, and he got it going. That allowed leader Mark Martin and all the front runners to get service with around 100 laps complete. The Save of the Night award goes to 2 drivers, Chad Little in the 23 and Jimmy Spencer. But at the same time, Elton Sawyer was causing caution number 3 to fly when he blew a tire and slammed the wall. A few laps later, and Roy Payne's night wasn't too good. This was his second problem of the evening, but again, he kept it going. In almost every race, there seems to be at least one dominant car. Unlike a couple of weeks ago at Bristol, the man at Richmond was Kenny Wallace in the TIC Financial Ford. He was showing the field nothing but bumper heading into the final 50 laps. Even though David Green wasn't in the lead group, he still raced hard here with Randy LaJoie. But the excitement wasn't over just yet. Derek Cope went for a long slide down the front stretch, but he was able to keep going. Wait a minute, there's more. Jim Bound lost a tire and took Ricky Craven to the wall, but they didn't hit it. But then Bound came down right in front of the DuPont driver. The contact collected Hermie Sadler, who could do little more than close his eyes and wait for the crunch. Everyone was okay. But up front, it was a clean track and clear sailing for Kenny Wallace, who got his second win of the year. It was an all-Winston Cup top 5 with Mark Martin, Dale Earnhardt, Terry Labonte, and Steve Grissom rounding out the leaderboard. This is Janet King reporting for On Pit Road.
With NASCAR's 2 main series running Friday and Saturday nights, last Sunday afternoon was wide open for the ASA to take center stage, and with only 3 races left on the schedule, everyone was out to put out their best performance.
Michigan International Speedway playing host to the American Speed Association for the first time since 1986. And on the green flag, pole sitter Bob Seneker gets a move put on him on the inside by Mike Eddy. But then Bob Seneker in the number 84 Bluebird machine takes the lead back. In a remarkably incident-free day, one of the early retirees, Todd Forbes, in the 07 car, fire under the hood, and he's on the sideline. Mike Eddy going back into the lead. He and Bob Seneker waging a seesaw battle all day long. Along with Mike Miller in the number 18 Funco Land Pontiac Motorsports entry. Sat outside row 1. He led briefly. Then rookie driver Brian Refner in the number 5 car. He qualified 4th and took the lead. But Bob Seneker goes back to the front where he seemed to belong all day long. And the blue number 84 on the pole looked like he was a runaway winner. But a caution flag with 3 laps to go tightened up the race and looked like it would give Mike Eddy a shot at victory. It was not to be. Seneca ran away to the checkered flag in the last 3 laps to the joy of his crew from the Johnsonville Sausage entry. Mike Eddy ended up 2nd ahead of Brett Bell from California. Ken Schrader was 4th. Brad Loney came home in 5th spot. Brian Drebber reporting for Group 5 Sports.
There was plenty of action to choose from over the weekend if you're a stock car fan. Besides the races we've already shown you, there was still another NASCAR race on the card. Here are some of the highlights.
The Slim Jim All-Pro Series was an I-70 Speedway, and a warning, this one was confusing. It wasn't because of this crash between number 24 Phil Klein and the 99 of Jim Stewart. No, instead it was all about Mike Cope, who dominated in the early going. Cope lost a couple of laps in the pits during the race, but apparently made them up and had retaken the lead in the final stages. Turns out there was a scoring mistake, and although Cope originally took the checkers, he was later dropped back to 2nd, 1 lap down to the official winner, Hal Goodson. The Goodies Dash Series race seemed more like a yellow flag festival at New Asheville Speedway. The big smash-em-up happened in the second half of the feature with number 2 pointsman Larry Caudle smack in the middle. That could have been a catastrophe for Caudle in the points race, but leader Ed Howe was already out with fuel pump trouble. So it was all up to number 65 Will Hobgood, who had control of the race and kept it all the way to the checkers for his 4th win of the year, while Caudle managed to overtake Howe in the points race. This is Stephanie Boyd reporting for On Pit Road.
When we come back, turning laps into cash. On Pit Road, Rose on right after this. The Eldora Speedway promoter is well known for his high-dollar sprint car shows, but this past weekend he had his annual late model affair, the World 100.
206 drivers time trialed, 120 went through heat racing action, and from that, these 24 drivers survived to get to the main of the prestigious World 100. These guys are some of the very best in the business, and that's why they can get through the green flag land rush to turn 1 without laying a fender on each other. There was just one bump-em-up on Eldora's high banks, which is no easy feat. Pole sitter Steve Francis went backwards from the start, and it soon became apparent why when his motor let go and he was the first car out. This is as good as it gets in late model dirt action as 21 Billy Moyer, Davey Johnson, and the 00 Freddie Smith, who won the Dream at Eldora a few months ago, diced off and for the lead through the middle laps. But Moyer had figured out the secret of this track 2 of the past 3 years, and when it came time to show who had what, there was no doubt that Moyer still knew the best way around the half mile. The payout of $27,000 isn't the biggest for this type of race, but it was still hard-earned.
We was a little concerned, I know, every car that starts this race is a good car, but we just going to, take what was given to us, try to keep our nose clean and, keep the car straight, and that's what I tried to do, and it all worked out good.
Johnson and Havatampatera Scott Blomqvist were next, followed by Smith and Kevin Weaver.
Since a group of super modified clubs out west joined together to form the Western States Super Modified Tour, the competition has been more brutal than ever, so it was only natural to expect more of the same when the tour headed to Yakima Speedway in Washington last Saturday night.
Yakima Speedway was the site of the latest showdown for the Western States Super Modifieds. Going into the main event, Hannibal Racing teammates Dan Hayes and Rebel Jackson Jr. were tied for the overall points lead with Davey Hamilton in 3rd. but the much-anticipated showdown never materialized as Jackson and Hayes both suffered mechanical problems that left them back in the pack. And on lap 16, when Hamilton took the lead for good, there was no one to get in his way as he cruised to his first win since June.
We've been fast almost every race. We've had breakdowns, just small things happening. We blew a motor a couple races back, and it's just a good thing, you know, that we got the team back together and got organized and was able to come out here and pretty much dominate tonight. So it makes us feel real good, and we're just hoping to go on the rest of the season like this.
Second through fourth went to Scott Backman, Rock Veenstra, and Jeff Helton. Jackson's fifth-place finish gives him a small lead in the point standings heading into the final race next month at El Cajon.
Don't go away because there's still more on pit road to come. But first, here's a look at the finishing order from Sunday's IndyCar race at Road America. Watching our show for the past couple of weeks, you know the World of Outlaws Tour has been up and down the West Coast for their annual Western Swing. Well, the trip continued this past weekend, and this time they stopped the bus at Santa Maria Speedway.
There was a couple of nights of World of Outlaws action out in California. The first night was an all-out war between Jack Hodenshield in the 22 and Dave Blaney in the Vibrant number 10. Then Steve Kinzer got into the action trying to chase Blaney, who was taking his turn on the point. The King couldn't catch Blaney, but maybe a yellow would help him out. That's Lee Brewer Jr. going around on lap 28. But then Jason Lund went for a rough ride down the front stretch. He was okay. Once the green flag flew again, Blaney was all alone out front and took the win. Stevie Smith got by Kinzer for the second spot, while Greg Hodnett and Hodenshield rounded out the top 5. Then on Saturday night, it was time for the A-main at the San Jose Speedway, and Steve Kinzer was on the pole and took the early lead. In fact, the King kept his number 11 in the top spot until Blaney charged to the outside on lap 27. And from there, it was all Blaney at the checkers.
To win any of these races, no matter who you beat, you know, you're running against the best guys every night. But yeah, if you can just stay competitive and you know, and run with them, you know, stuff like what happens tonight will happen. If you know, somebody gets caught a little bit behind some lap traffic, if you're good enough to be close to them, you can do something about it.
Kinzer was second, followed by Jeff Swindell, Sammy Swindell, and Jack Hodenshield.
When it comes to sprint car racing, the Outlaws aren't the only game out there. There are plenty of other series to watch, too, and we just happen to have some highlights to prove it.
Let's look at some non-wing sprints first. The first Nationals at Lincoln Park Speedway didn't have anybody going home without a hat full of memories. If cars weren't scattered all over the track, they were performing flips that brought the crowd to its feet. Kenny Dunlap was knocked unconscious in this one, but the crowd thought he was still in control. They loved it. The 36, driven by Dave Darlin, spotted Dave Pepperek the lead over the first 5 laps before taking it away and winning the $4,000 top check. His win shouldn't come as any major shock.
We just picked up win number 13 on the year here at Putnamville for the Lincoln Park, first annual Lincoln Park Nationals. And I guess the next thing is get the car ready for the big show down at Bloomington, the Dio and the King race.
Next stop, and we do mean stop, I-96 Speedway for the Club All-Stars. But green means go, and that's the way most of the feature was run. The early pace setter was Brian Tyler, but it wasn't long before series points leader and co-series champ Frankie Kerr entered the lead battle. The other co-champ is Kevin Huntley in the number 1, and he's giving a clinic on how to use a pick to get your way. From there, it was his night, although the win didn't come easily.
We struggled all night for the feature. We finally got things going, but at the beginning it was a little bit slow. I was kind of hanging on. I thought this is going to be a long race. The longer it went, the tire got going better. The track started coming to me, coming to my car. Frankie and Brian got to racing real hard on the bottom, and I was following them. I thought, well, this ain't going to work. So I moved up top, and I went around both of them, which actually surprised me as much as it did anybody else, I think.
Kerr got second with Dale Blaney, Tyler, and Dan Gurley next.
Straight ahead on Pit Road, we'll wrap up the week in racing, but first we'd like to remind you about a chance to gain some recognition for your group. If you're a member of a car or truck club that is actively involved in community projects, your club could win the Golden Rule Award, sponsored by Eagle One. The award is presented annually to the most outstanding club in the West, Midwest, East, and South. With it goes national publicity, a handsome plaque, and a large supply of Eagle One appearance products for fundraising activity. Here's the address where you can enter. Welcome back, everybody. It's been said many times before that dirt track racing is the backbone of American motorsports. Well, you won't get any argument here, especially if you look at the action from the DIRT Series. Here are some of the highlights from their latest event.
The 45th Annual New York State Modified Championship was held Labor Day at the State Fairgrounds in Syracuse, New York. The winner of the 50-lap modified feature event would get a guaranteed 7th starting position in the Wheels 300, held annually as part of Super Dirt Week in October, also at the State Fairgrounds. The Sam Dell Pontiac Trans Am pace car led a 34-car starting field down to the green flag with Billy Decker in his yellow Wheels 91 grabbing the early lead. Syracuse is the longest and fastest racetrack that the modifieds run on all season, with speeds approaching 140 miles per hour on this 1-mile oval. And sometimes the high speeds can translate into big crashes, like this one, which stopped the race just before the halfway point. When racing action resumed, it looked like Decker had the field covered as he opened up an advantage over second-place Toby Tobias Jr. and third-place barefoot Bob McCready. But on a late race restart, both Tobias and McCready snuck around Decker. For the rest of the race, McCready tried to chase down the car number 35, but Tobias was able to maintain a 1-second advantage over McCready right to the checkered flag. Tobias joined Eddie Marshall in becoming the only second-generation drivers ever to win the Labor Day Classic. McCready finished second with Billy Decker, Doug Hoffman, and Jack Johnson filling out the top 5.
Desert racing is already some of the most exciting action anywhere, but this past weekend, the country's major desert series reintroduced a starting procedure that heated things up even more. Jerry Garrett has the story of the Score Gold Coast 300.
The Gold Coast 300 was the next to last race of the season for desert racers. Besides the usual battle with the elements, this race featured some very close competition for the victory. That was Rob McCachran moving the cameraman out of the way in his pursuit of Jimmy Smith. Smith led the race until the midpoint when he and everyone else had to make a mandatory pit stop. Smith's pit stop, though, was disastrous, and it cost him the race. Both McCachran and Ivan Stewart passed Smith while he was in the pits. Smith's problem? Well, it seems that fuel would not flow from the pit tank into the race truck. That is until a breather cap was finally unplugged. Smith gave his crew a good dusting when he was finally able to leave. Meanwhile, McCachran was having a wild ride holding off Stewart for the lead. But a stiff wind kicked up so much dust in this race that passing was almost impossible, and Stewart's task was made all that much more difficult by a flat tire on the final lap, which gave McCachran just enough breathing room to score his first victory of the season. And since McCachran came into this race leading the points, he goes out leading them, and he's certainly the guy to beat as the season finale looms at the Baja 1000 in November. Reporting from the Gold Coast 300 near Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Jerry Garrett.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of On Pit Road. Thanks for joining us. Of course, we'll be back again next week, and we hope to see you then. I'm Mark Allen, sitting in for Pat Patterson. Have a great week, everybody.
On Pit Road is brought to you by Restore Automotive Products, manufacturers of innovative automotive products. By Western Auto, the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR. And by the UAW GM. People, teamwork, technology.
Communications provided by Racing Electronics, the official communications of On Pit Road. For a free catalog, call 1-800-272-7111. Equipment transportation provided by Isuzu Trucks, America's #1 selling low-cab forward commercial trucks. You'll get more payload, better maneuverability, and lower cost with a gasoline or diesel-powered Isuzu truck. And by Featherlight Trailers, the official trailer of NASCAR and major sponsor of the NHRA. Remember to call Featherlight for all your trailer needs at 1-800-800-1230.